My name's Chris Phillip.
My name is Paul Anderson.
My name's Mark Boyd.
Hello, my name is Derek Combs and I listen to the Blue Army podcast.
My name is Matty Robson and you're listening to the Blue Army podcast.
That's exciting. So the man that does the theme tune might appear at any moment during the podcast. So that's quite fun.
Depends what time he gets into Carlisle, because we're starting on time. So
yeah. We've made good timing. We've good timing. Thanks very much, lads. By the way, for joining me on a Sunday, like so close to after the game. I mean, I know we're not used to doing it. I was kind of thinking and hoping we could maybe start getting episodes out on a Monday, or we could maybe organise like a regular slot or something on a Sunday. And if you can't make it one week, just put your hand up and say I can't make it next week or something. But this is me extending an invitation to you two to be kind of the regulars, I suppose, for the season if you're kind of up for it. One more time.
Yeah.
Well, the season has kicked off, hasn't it, lads? I mean, it wasn't a bad weekend for us, but I mean, like, before we dive into what the episode's actually going to be about, and while I do enjoy a good preamble, I mean, did you watch any of the women's football yet? Have you been watching the finals just now?
Oh, now, yeah, England and 1-0.
Yeah, I was watching it.
Are they? Did they just go 1-0 up? Yeah.
About 10 minutes ago now. Yeah. Through a kind of ball over the top, like one striker just kind of like lobbed the keeper.
It was a nice chipped finish, wasn't it?
One-touch goal.
Would you say the women's Euros has kind of scratched a little bit of an itch for you when it came to football leading into the season, or like were you just equally as excited because it's bleeding into the football season for us as Carlisle fans? Were you just equally as excited to, this is the season starting now? Was it always just a buzz?
Yeah, I've not really had much chance. I mean, this is the first one of the women's Euros that I've actually been able to watch any of, because it's always just kind of like clashed with something. I had a meeting last Tuesday night when England were in the semi-final, so yes, I've just never had the chance to watch them yet.
Yeah. You, Liam?
Yeah, similar stuff. I was stuck in an airport when the semi-final. For me, women's football and men's football, I like them both, but they're both sort of separate sports for me. I enjoyed watching the women's football, but it's a completely different kettle of fish. Looking forward to the men's football.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're branding it that way a little bit more, though. Like they kind of have their own commentary teams and their own sort of panels, and there's like a bleed over person or two. But they're going for their own guests. It's like it's interesting to see the Arsenal women's manager in there, like on the panel, rather than they could have got any kind of footballer kind of thing, but they're going in different directions with things, and I think it's interesting. But there was nothing more exciting than flicking on ITV1 at 11:15 last night, watching that Football League show highlights one more time, man. Yeah, I'm buzzing for the season to be back. And since we're back, and since you're both here, and everyone's sounds amazing, am I allowed to kick things off? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, the season opener. Here we go. Oh, Reeds Maras, how's it going? And welcome back to the Blue Army podcast. This is, of course, episode 78. And if you haven't already guessed after that mushy invitation that I just extended to the duo, that's right. I'm talking about the Cumbrian Brain Trust. It's Wills and Liam Denwood joining me on the Blue Army podcast. Thank you so much, lads. Are you all right, yeah?
Yes. Hiya.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
Welcome back, lads. Welcome back. It's amazing to have you. And before we dive into quite a lot of news, actually, I didn't realise there was quite so much until I dived into it. We've got traditions here on the Blue Army podcast. And of course, that can only mean one thing, and one thing only at this stage of the show. It's time for the Blue Army podcast Joke of the Week. Join in if you know the words, lads. Is he having a laugh? I think he's trying to. It's the Blue Army podcast. Joke of the Week.
Hey.
Yeah.
Is that my audio? So I just paused there. Is that my audio? Or is everything good? Are you guys all good?
Yes, good now. Yeah,
it started to sell out. Yeah.
I got your reaction though. That was nice. But anyway, getting on with the joke of the week. Why did the man keep getting hit by a bike?
Oh, I don't know. Gone. Why did the man keep getting hit by a bike?
Because he was in a vicious cycle.
Jesus West.
That was quite good. I thought
Oh man, yes. Yeah, that was all right. I'm taking that to the bank. When we do the ex-pro interviews, I don't have the balls to do a joke of the week. Do you reckon I should start just doing it? Do you reckon I should just carry on doing a joke of the week when I've got an ex-player in?
Absolutely.
Should I?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's gonna be a sham the first time I do it. Yeah, I think I am. I think I'm going to do that next time. There'll be no more gaps in joke of the week anymore. Joke of the week will be consistent now. Consistent. We're smashing it recently. Anyway, on to the news, lads. There's quite a bit of transfer news, ins and outs. There's some injury updates, and of course, we're going to kick things off by talking about that Crawley Town video from their owners. What an absolute sham, man. What the hell? They even took it down themselves. Liam, I saw your video on the Blue Army TV YouTube channel that you do. It was a great reaction, mate. And I think that video did really well for you as well. So obviously it's a subject that a lot of Carlisle fans are aware of. I mean, just relay your 2 cents, Liam. What did you think of that video?
Well, I was right. I said it would get taken down within 24 hours, and it did. But it's just so... I didn't feel offended by it. I just felt really sorry for Crawley fans, because I thought, you are just going to get taken the piss out of for ages after that. And he was dressed as a devil, which... Is that the Crawley Town thing? I've never seen that kind of stuff before. But
it's on the badge
it was
now.
So,
I never realised they were the Red
Devils on the badge.
At all. I never realised it.
But it's just obscure. It's just weird. It's classic examples of Americans trying to get involved with it. That's just what it is. That's how I would describe it. It's just weird. But
it reminded me of that Vice documentary where they've got that football hooliganism for Miami before Miami even had a team. He's like, Miami Ultra.
Americans. It's just Americans.
You just don't get it. Will, what did you think when you saw it, mate?
I think it's like trying to be cringy, but it's just awful. And like Liam says, it's kind of like, my main thought was he's going on about cum Brian's and stuff to do with Scotland. It's not offensive to us. It's funny. Just purely embarrassing if you're a Crawley fan and you're kind of thinking, oh no. And because they're into the whole NFT thing, so I think they're trying to create some kind of thing that goes viral that they can then kind of sell as an NFT, I think. But I don't think I really get what sort of banter football fans appreciate, or just British banter in general. I don't think they get it. I think that I think it was an attempt to be cringy. I don't think it was kind of a genuine attempt at a wind up. It was an attempt to here's a bit of kind of banter, but it was just terrible.
If it was a made up team or something, they would have been fine to have a bit of on a sketch show or something. That would have been received as fine. But when you've actually got a set of supporters, the Crawley Town supporters that have they get the shit directed at them now. They're tarred with that. That's associated with them. Do you know what I mean? It's not just some non-existent team on a sitcom like Ted Lasso or something where you're allowed to do this kind of thing. And it almost feel like it came out of Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso's just shown it's very aimed at Americans, but it's about English football. So it's got weird little simplicities in soccer and whatever. But yeah, it was really weird. And Liam, you were right; they took it down. And do we know anything? Do you guys know anything about that? Was that purely just the fans trying to please take it down? Is that where it came from?
They put a statement out on the Twitter, didn't they, saying that it was we've obviously got it wrong and we'll stop. I think the whole thing of it was they were trying to be what Ryan Reynolds is at Wrexham, where they. Because he's a perfect example of how to do it right, and they've just gone completely off with it. Because obviously, I don't know if you've seen the video Wrexham have put out, where a little comedy sketch thing in the dressing room with Paul Mullin, which was quite good. That's where it should end. I think they were trying to do that and took it far too far, and it's just, I feel so sorry for Crawley fans. I genuinely did feel bad for them, but I'm glad we stuck them because of it.
When I saw it, I did have a look at their website, their fans forum, when I saw that, and their fans' reaction was just immediately, this is awful. So I don't know if the owners maybe seen that and thought, all right, our own fans don't seem to be enjoying this as much as I thought they would.
Yeah, I had a look on the forum as well, and somebody had posted my video on the Crawley forum, which was a bit weird.
Oh, brilliant, man, brilliant. Hopefully things like that do come along in football, but it never happens to us. You know, it's one of those ones where it's great to be able to point and laugh, but hopefully it never happens to us. It really doesn't. Right, we'll move on, lads, to the transfer news. And obviously the big news that we haven't had a chance to talk about is Jamie Devitt has signed on the dotted line for a 1-year deal. Obviously, he's been on trial with us all the way through the summer. It kind of felt inevitable to me that he was going to get offered some kind of a deal. I said 6 months, but then, maybe a year deal. I don't know what kind of money's involved and et cetera, et cetera. Lads, how do you feel about the transfer? Wills, you dive in first, mate. How do you feel about Jamie Devitt signing?
I feel like I've covered this, maybe a few times from kind of like Jamie Devitt's come up. Like my view on him is that even if we don't get kind of, he has to kind of like sit out midweek games or something, is never at full fitness or anything like that, is a very canny player and he's got experience and nous, and that's something that the midfield that we've got at the moment is kind of lacking a bit in that. So, we've got quite a lot of young players, even though it seems like Callum Guy's been around a while and he's still quite young himself. So having kind of like Jamie Devitt as that more experienced option is something that I think that we'd really kind of need.
Yeah, Liam?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. It could come back to bite us in the arse, really, but I think the contract that I think they've given him, it's very much dependent on if he plays, the amount of money they pay him. Or that's what I seem to get from Paul Simpson's interviews. So they've probably done the right thing, in giving him that kind of contract. It's not pay as you play sort of contract, but
that sounds savvy.
But I'm glad it's being done that way, and I'm glad he is here more for the experience than the actual, because Sonny Hilton is Jamie Devitt, and I feel like maybe that he's come in to sort of mentor Sonny Hilton, sort of help him develop until Sonny Hilton can come and like.
Do you reckon he'll help him grow another foot?
Yeah, well,
I want to see Sonny Hilton standing next to Thomas Holy.
Yeah.
Oh dear me. Yeah, but no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's very much in that ilk of player, and it will be a good influence on him. And obviously, Sonny Hilton's only here for a season-long loan. But you imagine if things go quite well for us, and we do end up pushing into that League One, we might be able to bring him back. It's one of those things where it comes to first team football, progress in the game, etc., etc., etc. But yeah. I think it's a smart decision, but like Wills has already said, we've covered Jamie Devitt quite a bit during the summer. That's why I wanted to get it out the way first. The next transfer coming into Brunton Park is a goalkeeper by the name of Michael Kelly. He's 25 years old and he's only ever played Irish football. Came through around like Cherry something, I read, like some kind of Cherry something academy in Ireland, and then was at Shamrock Rovers under 19s. Basically played just a lot of Irish football. Yeah. He was currently, when we signed him, the number 2 at Bray. Bray aren't very good in Irish football either. And I mean, if this is competition and it's better than Gabriel Breeze, like, are we not a bit worried about Gabriel Breeze? Or is it maybe this is a really big precaution because Scott Simmons has got an injury for a couple of weeks? It just seems like unnecessary to me. Liam, what do you think about this one?
I quite liked it. I know he was second choice, but he had got some game time towards the start of last season from what I saw from the Bray Wanderers fans. Yeah, he's a good age and he's a good height, and he's been at the club training almost as a trialist sort of thing under Paul Simpson. So, and they've paid money for him, a very small fee, I've heard, but they have still paid money for him to come here. Paul Simpson obviously sees something in him. And who knows? Maybe Thomas Holy gets injured and he becomes our new number 1 for the next 5 years. It's only a 1-year contract, and Paul Simpson said in his interview, it's not a good contract for him. Almost as if, like, he's still got to prove himself and get himself that sort of
he has to want to be here. Yeah. One of those ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard stuff about him kind of like paying for his flights to come over here to, to go on trial with us and stuff. So I don't know, I don't know much about him, but it sounds like he's kind of really wanted to be here. Whether he has any connections with anyone who's currently here or something, I don't know. But I mean, Gabe Breeze is still really young, and maybe Paul Simpson just thinks, no matter how well his development is going, he's too young for Paul Simpson to want to have as his second choice keeper for the season.
Yeah, I think it's maybe it's a little bit about the personality in the dressing room as well. And maybe Gabriel Breeze is, maybe a shy and nervous kid, and maybe he wants somebody like a fully grown man in the changing room that can bounce off the players maybe a little bit more and help that harmony within the first 18. And it takes you maybe between that age of 17 and 20 to really find your voice in a man's world,
Yeah.
So I can see. It's a good move, but I don't think it's a great move. It's just that it doesn't seem crazy necessary. But like you both said, the money seems right, so I don't think it'll be a waste. And the opportunity is there for him to really go out and prove himself. In terms of outs, gentlemen, there's been 2 young lads going out on loan, which will see the return of Sam Fishburn Watch, thankfully. That's great. He's gone on a 3-month loan deal to Blythe Spartans, and Max Gillespie, who is 18, turning 19 in October, if age matters to you, is going on loan to Annan for half a season. Lads, I've lumbered these 2 together, but they are very different moves. It's quite different standards of football or different positions on the pitch. You're going to get tested in different ways in those leagues. My first question, though, is this a feel-good sort of rub for Annan for the Owen Moxon thing? Will, what do you think about that?
I mean, Annan are a club that we've got good connections with because they are very close to Carlisle and because of Peter Murphy. So I kind of feel that they're probably one of the clubs that we are in regular contact with when it comes to kind of have we got any players that need to go out on loan, stuff like that. There's, Paul Simpson and Greg Abbott both know Peter Murphy. They can kind of call up and have a chat, and they've known each other for quite a long time. So I've probably just got quite a good relationship with them that way. And because it's quite close as well, it's easy to get to from Carlisle. And, they seem to be quite a forward-thinking club, challenging for promotion. Even if it is kind of Scottish second division, I feel they're a club that, we like to send players out to at a certain stage in their career. Maybe you wouldn't send a player out and, probably come on to kind of, where the Blythe Spartans is the right place for Fishburn, whether he should be higher up. So players at Fishburn's kind of level, or Taylor Charters or something, you probably would say, if we're sending them out on loan, you want to send them higher than Annan. But Max Gillespie, first year pro. So
good
Annan
move.
probably
Good move.
would be a good fit for him.
Yeah. What do you think, Liam? Half a season at Annan. Does that appetise you?
Well, depends how well he does. Obviously, Owen Moxon's come from that level, so and he seems to be doing absolutely brilliantly. So good players can come from that level, and you mentioned about sort of trying to replace Owen Moxon with him, but I think just after we sold, we didn't pay any money for him. I don't think just after we got Owen Moxon, I think they got the not Josh Dixon, Josh Galloway, who we had a while ago, who just been released by Leeds. They signed him. So it'll be interesting to see what he does over there, and if he does go straight into the starting 11, because he's had a good pre-season at Carlisle Kilsby. He's been starting a lot of games, and Sam Fishburn. I was disappointed with the Sam Fishburn loan, and I think the 3-month loan is so he can go out there, score shitloads of goals, and get interest from higher up. That's what the plan is for him, what he did at Lancaster.
I would like to see him higher up. Yeah, when I heard he's kind of going to Blythe Spartans, I kind of thought that. Surely you kind of is at a point where I'd quite like to see him go on loan to the conference if he's going to go on loan somewhere, or at the very least Conference North.
North, yeah. Yeah. I mean, Conference South, it wouldn't make a difference, really. Like Conference North, Conference South, it wouldn't make a difference. But I mean, for me, the whole Sam Fishburne thing, if he's going to Blythe Spartans, and this is a poetry in football moment for me, really. If you go into that level, you should have gone to Carlisle City because you owe them one for being a dick like a couple of months ago.
Well, they
he does.
Like,
he didn't, but he owes them one. I would have literally marched him to Guildford. I would have marched him to Guildford Park. If you're going to send him to that level and make him go full circle with that story, really, really mature, learn something from it, work with that Dan Kirkup and really, day in, day out, well, not day in, day out, like twice a week or whenever they do over at Carlisle City, get it in the neck, and really decide if this is what he wants to do, or, if he's going to push on and get better at this and earn these opportunities, because he's going to have to dig down deep and really find it. Because if he doesn't hit the ground running at Blythe Spartans, it's going to look like he's taken a backward step from last season when he was scoring goals at Lancaster, and then maybe he's up shit creek without the paddle if that Bolandio kid starts getting in the first team on the bench and getting on the end of a few opportunities every now and again. And the reason
which he was yesterday.
Well, that's it. And the reason why I'm kind of mentioning him and the way that the bench and the team have been... I swear to God, my phone wants a spin-off podcast, mate. The amount of times it interrupts this podcast is mental. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is... Yeah, all these phones are listening in, man. It's evil. Bolandio, obviously, appearing around the sort of like the 18 now... the 18-man squad on match days, getting involved, and Sam Fishburne going out on loan. A lot of this has got to do with injuries, injuries and opportunities are coming up. Sam Fishburne goes out on loan, somebody gets injured, Bolandio ends up on the bench, and somebody that got injured in training this week is Toby Show Silver. He's gone down with a 2-month hamstring strain. This is potentially up to 2 months for Toby Shaw Silver. Somebody else that is recovering from a knock, and he's been recovering for a knock for a couple of weeks, then recovered from a dead leg, and has now gone on to have a fresh new knee condition. I'm talking about Brennan Dickinson. Unfortunately, he's gone down with a knock. We're not quite sure how long that's going to last, but it's not something that's going to make our manager, Paul Simpson, dip back into the transfer market for different targets than what he's actually after. His priorities haven't changed just because of these injuries. Other injuries also included Jamie Devitt, who wasn't involved after signing for the Cumbrians. He was ill. There was rumours about COVID. Those haven't been confirmed. And Scott Simons, who I think we did actually mention, he's gone down for a couple of weeks, which might have kicked in and really pushed on this transfer, but maybe didn't kick on and do anything for this transfer for Michael Kelly. Maybe he was always going to get that contract. And don't worry about Callum Guy. Callum Guy's fine. He should be back in training this week. He did get rushed off the pitch in the second half of the game against Crawley after getting a bit of a kick in. So I don't think it's anything more than a minor dead leg condition, and he's going to be back in training again soon. So there's the injury news, gentlemen. And we don't really need to comment on that. They're just facts. So we better move on to the match report. Hey! Yeah. Well, not the smoothest of transitions, but here we go, lads. The first match report of the new season. And before we do anything about commenting on the game, we have the tradition of doing the Carlisle United starting lineup for our 1-0 victory against Crawley Town. In nets, we had Thomas Holy. Across the back five was Back, Feeney, Barkley, Mellish and Armour, with Gibson, Guy and Moxon in the midfield, Edmondson and Dennis playing up front. Now, obviously, the bench is looking a lot stronger this season, gentlemen, so I'm going to mention it this time so we can actually talk about the lineup. We had Patrick, Hilton, Whelan, Ellis, Bell, Bolandio and Kelly on the bench. Yes, a few of those lads are youth options, but in terms of Patrick and Hilton, you're looking at some real quality that you're capable of bringing off the bench there. Were you surprised that Patrick didn't start, or did you always think Patrick was going to be one of those ones coming off the bench because he had a knock in pre-season? Wills, were you surprised about the lineup at all?
I thought the crack with Patrick. I thought the crack with Patrick was about his girlfriend about to give birth. So I was kind of surprised to see him on the bench because I thought he's not going to be in the matchday squad. But he was in the squad, but on the bench. Maybe he'd just not been able to train for the last couple of days or something because of his wife. and therefore Simo felt that he wouldn't be sharp enough to start. I don't know, but it's good. It's good to see that he was involved in the match day squad. Hopefully, do we know has his girlfriend given birth yet? Has he had a kid born yet?
Unknown.
I have no doubt.
No, I haven't heard anything. But Liam, I mean, apart from like Omari on the bench, or did it look like on paper that lineup probably at this time is Carlisle United's strongest starting lineup?
Yeah, other than Patrick, of course, and you could argue Devitt, if he's fit, probably comes in for Gibson. But apart from that, I think that you were going to see that line quite a lot. There's also the conversation to be had whether Senior, when he comes back from injury, whether he maybe replaces back. But yeah, for the time being, that's by far our strongest lineup, and it proved fruitful. You know, they played well in that formation, and I noticed the formation itself and the lineup. It was kind of a solid back five at times.
Yeah. I was impressed by the lineup. It looks really good, you know, the way that we're lining up with the back five and the three in the midfield and the two. But it also does look fluid, you know, like if the ball is going down the right-hand side, we're looking for the overlap from back and people like that. And that's what I want to kind of start the match report with, the early chances in the game. I mean, we did score early on in the game, but one of the earliest chances in the game was created by Finn Back going down the right-hand side, playing a beautiful 1-2 and getting the ball into the box. And Simpson has commented on Finn for being a forward-thinking right back, and I do think Joel Senior is going to struggle to get back into the team. Will Finn do anything to impress you?
Yeah, I mean, even just before he got given the Man of the Match award, I was saying to my friend who I was at the match with that new right back has been playing well today. He's been, you know, and it was good getting forward as well. He played like a proper wing back. And I wasn't necessarily expecting that from him because it was kind of, I guess he was signed fairly late in the window at a point where I felt like I thought maybe he was just being signed to give us a bit more strength in depth in that area. And like,
Liam, sorry, go on.
Or to kind of cover while Senior was out. I wasn't necessarily expecting him to come in and have an impact like that and be involved in a lot going forward and get Man of the Match.
Yeah, that was it, Wills. I was going to actually say something about Senior then. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you that much. But that was it. I wanted to throw in the Senior name to sort of stir the pot a little bit. And obviously, Liam, we know you're a big fan of Senior. Are you worried that Finn Back's going to keep him out the team?
Worried's a strong word because I just want whoever's playing better to play. But Senior, he's gonna have trouble getting into the team, and obviously Jack Kelly's played a lot better towards the end of last season as well. So there is real competition for that right back spot when, you know, especially when Joel Senior comes back in. So it's, you know, he's obviously played very well, and you know, he's got good genetics. You know, his dad was a, you know, big rugby player, wasn't he? So.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not big, but not big in the physical means.
In England. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He seemed like a really nice guy. I mean, I'm working at Brunton Park at the moment. I was coming down the stairs from Fox's Lounge. I managed to just walk past Finn and his family. Were going into the restaurant to receive some kind of Man of the Match award, and it was just so humble the way they were kind of waiting for people to come through the door and stuff, and his family weren't sure if they could even come in. So maybe that's Finn's first ever Man of the Match award sort of experience, and I mean, hopefully the good times continue for him. The good times did continue for Carlisle, because only a couple of minutes later we got the first goal of the season, the winning goal of the game. And I mean, it's my top goal scorer's prediction, gentlemen, if we remember. It was scored by Dennis. And let me try and talk you through the goal, and then obviously we'll discuss it. There was a throw-in from the left-hand side that was passed back to the throwee by Dennis, and the ball was whipped into the box from the left-hand side, missing its target and ending up with the full-back who tried to clear and did a terrible job of clearing and skewing the ball into the air, remaining within his own box. And that fell to Dennis, who had a strike, which was deflected. And then the clearance hit Moxon in the face. And as it hit Moxon in the face, it lands back to Kirsten Dennis, who slots home very well with his left foot. Now, he had an improvised finish against Bolton. This was eerily similar, the way it kind of bubbled up. I like Dennis. Dennis is the kind of striker that doesn't need a million opportunities in the game to hit the back of the net, you know. Big fan. Sloppy goal, yes. Lucky goal, yes. But we're going to need some good luck this season, aren't we, Liam?
Yeah. And it was weird because we created so many opportunities, and the one that was sort of like the most scuffed was the one that we actually did end up scoring. But it was a real centre forwards goal, really, where he sort of did the Ozil bounce, where he hit it down, it bounced up off the floor and goes past the keeper. It was a nice finish, I thought, and you know, Moxon getting his first assist of the season, you know, maybe not how he imagined it, but but it will count. It will count as an assist for Moxon. But yeah, I like the goal. It was so early on as well, and it was just such a feel good being right back in the ground and scoring straight away. First game of the season, scoring early on. It was brilliant from Dennis.
Yeah, it's a really good feeling to score early in the game, and especially like early in the season. But you know, that kind of like first season nerves. How will we do a lot of that like lifts when we went 1-0 up? Yeah, it was a fair. You know, it was a bit lucky, but we'd had good chances before that, so we knew we were creating chances. And you know, if you create chances, then you'll also get luck. So it was, you know, I felt we were even that early in the game. We were good value for the 1-0 up.
Yeah, it did look like we were opening really well, really positively. Or maybe was it the fact that Crawley just didn't seem like they were linking up very well? There were 7 debutants in the Crawley team. I don't think there was a lot of purpose to their play necessarily. And I think when at the end of the day, Carlisle had the better game plan, but we'll get to a bit more of an overall view of the game in just a little bit. There was another moment that really interested me only about 5 minutes after Carlisle's opening goal. Callum Guy played a nice 1-2 in the midfield, and he was through on goal and got me thinking, I'd like to see Callum Guy get in the box a bit more. And I think that's going to be one of his prerogatives this season. I think we're going to see Callum Guy. This is one of my bold predictions, gentlemen. Yeah. On episode 1 of the season, Callum Guy will score double figures this year.
Oh, wow.
Oh!
You do know he hasn't scored a single goal.
I know.
Ever at Carlisle.
That's why it's a very bold prediction, Liam. That's why it's a very bold prediction, because I think if Callum Guy doesn't start scoring goals soon, then his position is going to be under threat. Now, his captaincy is kind of gone. Like, you know, we're not quite sure what's happening with that. Like, it's never been officially said. Anything's never really came out about it officially yet.
Feeney had it on Saturday.
Feeney did have it on Saturday. No one said anything about it yet, though. I mean, like, lads, that's a point, actually. I've not even made a note of that. I mean, how do you feel Feeney over Guy? Is it more of a natural fit? Will, what do you think of that one?
I was like struggling I was like trying to see who had the armband on, and I did see Feeney, but that was only after Guy had gone off, so I didn't know whether or not it started with it. Yeah, it's, you know, I think if the players are kind of behind it, you know, we don't know how Guy feels about it, whether Guy was kind of like really invested in being the captain. You know, not all players feel like they really want to be the captain. Some kind of do it more out of duty, but so like, you know, maybe Guy wasn't that fussed about being the captain, but Feeney was kind of showing captaincy. If the players are happy with it, that's all that matters. I think they're happy with it. I was just checking Amari Patrick's Twitter because he does tweet a lot, does Marzi, to see if it said anything about his kid, and he hadn't, but he had kind of reposted a tweet about Morgan Feeney being Captain Morgan.
All right, okay. What are you saying, Liam? Better fit for the job?
Yeah, I feel like the captaincy kind of killed Callum Guy's game. You know, when he first got it. Now, I don't think he was ever really a vocal captain. So I feel like when they first gave him it was more like, you're a very good player, lead by example. Whereas Morgan Feeney's more of a vocal, and is he Scouse as well? You know, so he's bound to talk loads. So yeah, he will make a good captain. And I also think as well, it's his last year in his contract for Feeney, so maybe that could be a bit of an incentive from Paul Simpson. You know, you're our captain, please stay on for longer, sign a new contract, sort of thing. And when we were coming into the season, Paul Simpson did say in an interview that he wants Morgan Feeney on a longer term contract. So I wonder if that's maybe a play by him to get Feeney on a long term contract, because Guy I think has got another 2 years left on his contract. So that I think that could have a big thing to do with it.
Yeah, I think Guy and Mellish signed similar contracts at the same time. Yeah, I think they're both going to be around for a little bit. But yeah, for me, the whole Callum Guy thing, the whole Callum Guy situation, obviously we've gone on a tangent about the captaincy. And actually, yeah, I'll give my 2 cents on it. I think Morgan Feeney is a much better fit for captaincy. And he showed it on Saturday as well. There's a couple of moments where he went to go and discuss things with the referee and really sort of like, I mean, kind of laid down the law a little bit. You know, he kind of called him on bullshit and was sort of like, well, 5 minutes ago, the same thing happened over there and no one got a yellow card for it. And now, you know, this lad's picking up a yellow card, or I think Armour picked up a yellow or something like that in the first half or something along those lines. But yeah, he seems like a much more natural fit. And I feel like it's one of those decisions, and this is just speculation as well. You hear things about how the captaincy gets determined at certain football clubs. I think West Bromwich Albion famously would take a vote before every single game, like during the certain period of the Premier League era a couple of seasons ago. I think Carney ended up being the more regular captain for the season. Yeah. But there are other teams that are very manager-led, and I imagine this is very much a Paul Simpson decision. It wasn't up for discussion. There was no team vote about who got to be captain for the season, which is how a lot of teams do it. You know, I feel like that would have maybe created a little bit of a rift in the changing room if you're kind of going, I back Feeney, I back Callum, I back Feeney, I back Callum. You know, it's going to create a rift in the changing room potentially, and it's just it's credit to Paul Simpson that it's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, because it does have the potential to upset a player like Callum Guy. And I mean, it's a good move. It's a good move. But now we're officially on the subject again of Callum Guy and what happened with him getting into the box. And the reason I'm thinking he's going to have to score a few more goals next season. And I mean, he's off set pieces as well, isn't he? Moxon's starting to take corners. So Callum's got to be somewhere in the box when those corners are coming in. And I feel like with the captaincy being relieved, with some of the set piece play being relieved off his shoulders, he's actually going to want to add a little bit more to his game. And I feel like him getting into the box isn't going to be very strange next season. Him taking shots from outside the box isn't going to be very strange next season. I'm pretty sure he had 3 shots in this game, which is, you know, nosebleed territory for Callum Guy in a game. So it's good signs, and that's why I've made and how
many on target though?
It's got to dial it in. It's been a long time. It's got to dial it in. The fact that he's trying on the regular, you know, that's a good sign for me. And I reckon if he does dial it in, if he mixes that sort of like accuracy of his set piece play with being able to shoot from open play with a couple of curlers, if he finds something in his wheelhouse that he can hit, you know, then hopefully we're going to see a couple of goals from him next season. Anyway, that's me a little rant about that out the way. But Crawley always looked like they had the potential to score a goal against Carlisle. I was never 100% happy with the back line, unfortunately. And they got me thinking, is 5 players communicating to organise a back line maybe 1 player too much? Liam, what are you thinking there? Is that just me speculating?
Yeah, I quite like the back 5. I quite like back 5. I like Mellish in a back 5 more particularly, because I feel like in a back 4 with Mellish as a centre back, he just tends to go on mad runs and leave gaps behind him. Whereas in a back 5, the gaps aren't as big because there's always going to be 4 defenders behind him, and he does do that. I remember yesterday I was thinking, where's Mellish at? Oh yeah, he's over there on the left wing. I've for some reason, but yeah, Joe Matip does it for Liverpool, but Mellish just seems to be mental with it. But yeah, the back 5. It's Simo's system, and it's what he's sticking with almost them 2 fullbacks bombing on. But yeah, back 5, as long as it works, it works. And you've got to think as well, you say Crawley always looked like scoring, but they didn't have a shot on target at all. You know, Thomas Holy didn't have to make a save throughout the entire game. So
yeah, I mean, there's a couple of breaks. Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, Will, before I start gigging in again, what do you think of a back 5? Are you a fan of the back 5, or is that too many defenders to organise a back line?
No, I guess it's probably harder or different in organising than if you've got a back 4. But I don't see any reason why it should be too many. It just has to be done differently. We've kind of like looked quite good as a back five at times since Simo's come in. So like there were occasions last season where it was the right call for him, and we were waiting to see is that what he's going to go with this season, or was that just him working to the personnel that he had? Looks like it's definitely part of his plan. Crawley, yeah, I mean, like they didn't really threaten, but because we had the 1-goal thing, and they had most of the possession in midfield, which was their game plan was to have a lot of possession, and we allowed that to happen. But as a fan, it's always quite nervy because you kind of like it only takes one like fuck up from one of our players, and they could be in and score. So it's quite nervy, but I wouldn't say they particularly ever looked like scoring. They had like a couple of good chances, but they were quite quick and quite quickly snuffed out.
Well, that was one of the more impressive things about the back five for me on the day. Is it did seem like Carlisle were using sort of like a counter-pressing style. We were happy to sort of sit back below our own halfway line, but very quick to chase the ball down, very quick to not let them have too much time on the ball in any position on the pitch. And most of our good sort of counter-attacking attacking play came from being able to win the ball in our own half. And then a player like Gibson did it on both sides of the half. In fact, in the first half and the second half, he won the ball in his own half, brought it forward, played a 1-2 or played it out wide, and then ended up getting an opportunity in the box. Or I think in the second half, he just took it himself actually and ended up in the box. And that's what Gibson can do. And I mean, that Gibson-Devitt debate's going to be interesting because, I like Gibson in that position. I think he offers a lot, and he can unlock defences, and he can smack one from 25 yards and score them. We've seen him do it a lot last season in a poor team. So what's he going to be able to do in a good team? I reckon we're in for a good one with Gibbo as well. But I'm not going to make any bold predictions there. Not too many.
You're not going to predict Gibbo to score.
Don't spew me load on the first episode. I mean, you guys can make bold predictions as well. You're more than welcome to. But there's a couple of occasions in the game, a couple of different performances stood out for me. Gibson being quite fluid in the counter pressing fashion. He's good at winning the ball back. He was good at like getting Carlisle on the front foot again, and I feel like that kind of pushed him into my man of the match category. But we'll get there when we get there. First, lads, was there any sort of individual performances that stood out for you? Because for me, collectively, the game plan looked really good, but obviously we should have scored 4 or 5 really. So maybe we're lacking in certain personnel. Liam, what do you think of that?
I think a lot of the time we were just unlucky. I think Dennis missed a few good chances. Edmondson did as well, but this early on in the season, Edmondson just needs to get that first goal and he's off the mark. Dennis has obviously already done that.
Yeah.
But you ask about individual performances. I think the big one today was Owen Moxon. He was absolutely brilliant. Some of the passes he was doing, and he's a big lad. I didn't notice it at Penrith or Workington when I watched him, but he's a big lad, Owen Moxon. And some of the passes he pulls off are absolutely unbelievable. And he has some good dribbling, great. He has a few good tackles. He could be our best midfielder for years to come if we're lucky and we get him on a long-term contract and he stays injury free. But he would have been my man of the match, I think, going Moxon. Individual performances, you don't get much better than what he did. And obviously the assist, you can say he didn't mean it, but they all count the same. But yeah, Owen Moxon, he was brilliant. Yeah.
Now, Wills, was a certain area of the pitch that impressed you? The defence, the attack, the midfield? Don't give away your man of the match just yet, but was there anything that stood out for you for it to impress you in the game?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that stood out for me, similar to what Liam said there, Moxon and back, the general kind of like the attacking and the link up down the wings, which is kind of like where most of our attacks came from. And we got to the byline quite a lot. And in fact, probably some of our shots, we had quite a lot, but we were probably quite often at too tight an angle because we'd gone past them all and got to the byline. But, I think we'll get better at that. We'll get players in players in better positions to pick up them crosses when they come in. And Moxon having a really good game as well. Didn't have a lot of possession, and for a lot of the time Crawley were just moving about in midfield, and we just had to kind of like watch what they were doing with it and keep our shape. But whenever Moxon got the ball, he does kind of like sort of passes it forward. I think we just kind of like, we did get forward quite quickly, whether it was a counter attack or whether it was just a 1-2 touch thing in midfield and then get down the line and try and fashion a chance on goal out of it. So those were the things that I thought we did well yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's not really big areas of room for improvement. It is one of those things. We got off to a good start. We did what we needed to do. We got the 3 points on the board. What more can you really ask for? But in terms of maybe individual performances, Thomas Hoyley didn't fill me with crazy confidence when he came off his line. There was a moment in the first half where he really failed to sort of like clear it. I think it was lucky in the end. It was an offside given, but the ball, I don't know if it bobbled or he wasn't sure if he was going to kick it or knee it, or he didn't know if he was inside or outside his box for a second. I was a long way away from it on the pitch, but the way that he recovered from it was also a bit suspect. You know, he decided to try and boot the ball over his head. So he had no idea it was offside. He was desperately trying to clear his line, you know, and maybe it does open the door for Michael Kelly if he's got a cooler head, who knows? But at the end of the day, what did impress me, and this is what I'm trying to do this year, guys, is when I slag someone off, I give them a compliment. What did impress me is Thomas Hoyley's cannon of a right boot, because that he can go from goal to goal if he really wanted to. I think he's got it in his locker now. It's like a medieval catapult, gentlemen. It's like when you're that boots, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's one of those like you reel the right foot back, and it's just I think he can pretty much control however much power he wants to put on it, and the power goes. And yeah, maybe it's not necessarily crazy accurate, but it will go well far up the pitch. And I think that's kind of what Simo was probably afterwards. He wants a goalkeeper that can put us instantly on the front foot, and now we've got a goalkeeper that can do that. I feel like maybe we've been missing that since who was before Mark Howard? Farman had a hell of a boot on him as well. Yeah, Farman had a hell of a boot on him as well. So like, I feel like we've been lacking that a little bit. I'm not saying Howard couldn't kick the ball, but like, this is a cannon of a right foot. So I mean, yeah, maybe coming off his line, a little bit of room for improvement. Maybe he was excited because he was making his professional debut for Carlisle. We'll chalk it off down to that. We'll rub it off. Great distribution, good outlet, cannon of a right foot. We'll leave it there in terms of room for improvement for me. But rooms of improvement, Liam, is there anything that you'd like to see going into the Colchester game that you didn't see this weekend? Maybe Patrick starts or something like that.
I don't want to slag Thomas Hoyley off too much, but you're right in saying that he puts a lot of power into his passes. But I think there was 2 instances yesterday where he just put them straight out of play. You know, granted he was out of play on the other side of the pitch, but I think he needs to just get them a bit more accurate because he's got the power in them, but a lot of the times it does just go out of play, which does remind me a lot of Mark Howard because he used to do that quite a bit. But I remember I can see what the plan is there because he's obviously been put in there to do that because you look at the corner set up that Paul Simpson's got up. He leaves almost like what Mexico used to do in the World Cup a few years ago where you've got 2 wide players left up from corners just for like maybe Thomas Hoyley to come and claim it, send it out wide to one of them 2. But yeah, in terms of improvement, that would be it.
Hey, well, Mangy Moose has just arrived in the room. I don't know if you can hear us just yet, but we might bring him in to talk about his music in just a little bit. We'll let Will sort of go off mic and say hello and stuff like that. But me and you, Liam, will carry on for a couple of minutes and let Will sort of embed Nathan in. Nathan, Mangy Moose, that you might have heard at the start of the podcast, is somebody that does the theme tune for the Blue Army podcast. There he is, glorious Mangy Moose, giving us a lovely wave. All we really have to do, Nathan, if you don't mind hanging around for 5 or 10 minutes, Mangy Moose, is to give our man of the match predictions, and then I was going to tell the lovely people what's going to happen on this day, or what happened on this day in Carlisle United history. So there's not too much to go, and maybe Mangy Moose will come and join us for a little bit. I'm not sure how much Will can actually hear of us.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, could you hear everything? Yeah, is Mangy Moose willing to do a little chat with us later on?
Nathan, you want to come on and do a chat in a bit?
Yeah, not really.
That's
but
fine.
Really
no, he's rather exclusive. Our Mangy Moose man. That's fine. You don't have to, Mangy. You don't have to. All I want to say is, while I've got you on the podcast, Mangy Moose, is thank you for the theme tune. Thank you so much for the theme tune.
It was a pleasure to make. It was a pleasure to make. Yeah, it was.
So if any of our listeners wanted to put a voice to the man that created the music for the theme tune, there he is. I'm just going to steal Will. I'm just going to steal Will for like another 5-10 minutes, Mangy, and then obviously you's back to being yours, mate, for the rest of the evening. But yeah, we'll crack on. We're going to do the man of the match. Foxy's features man of the match, gentlemen. What are we thinking? What are we thinking, man of the match wise? I think Liam Denwood, you can go first because I think you're going to pick Owen Moxon. Go on.
Yeah. I might have accidentally leaked that earlier on in the episode, but I think I am going to pick Owen Moxon. But because I've already spoke about him, I just want to give like a little honourable mention to Barkley at the back, the centre back, because I thought he had a really good game in terms of some of his tackling, some of his passing forward. He really impressed me today, But yeah, overall, I think Owen Moxon, professional debut, obviously Carlisle born, a product of the youth academy originally. Yeah, Owen Moxon, he looked absolutely brilliant. Some of the passing, some of the tackling, some of the dribbling he did. He was just unreal today. So yeah, or even Owen Moxon. Yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, I'm only teasing you because he's also my Foxy's feature man of the match as well. And it's interesting that you mentioned Barkley, because I was also going to mention it was between the two of them. I feel like he had a good solid game at the back, but he's in that kind of position when you're in a back five where you might not always get the credit you deserve. And I mean, yeah, he does deserve a shout out. Good debut from him, good debut from him. But a great debut from Owen Moxon, who gets my Foxy's feature man of the match as well. So that's 2 for Owen to kick off the season. Wills, who are you going for?
I'll give mine to Finn back. I mentioned earlier that so he got the official man of the match, and not long before he got it, I turned to my mate who I was standing in the Warwick with and said how that new right back, he's having a good game. It was after he'd made one of his runs right up to the byline, and there were players. If there'd maybe been players in the right place, he could have got an assist. He seemed to be involved in a lot of stuff going forward, and I do quite like to see a proper wing back, do that, run right up the pitch. So I think he deserved the man of the match that he got from the sponsors, and he's my man of the match too.
All right, that's a good way to kick off the season there. I think both of those players are going to get a few more mentions during the season, and they're going to have to rock the champion of last season, who I believe from memory was Morgan Feeney in the end, and obviously he's got the chance to reclaim his title this year. We'll carry on the prediction train, gentlemen. The Colchester result. Colchester are our next opponents. It's always fun to do a prediction. Will, how do you feel like we're going to get on against Colchester?
I think Colchester are one of those teams that I think might struggle this season. So hopefully we're not going to struggle. So I think they should be well beatable for us. I'm going to say I think we're going to win 2-0.
Yeah, 2-0. Good bit of confidence there. Liam, how are you feeling about the Colchester results?
I was certainly more scared of Crawley than I am of Colchester, and we disposed of Crawley quite easily. So, yeah, comfortable for us. I don't want to be too cocky, but Colchester, have they lost their keeper yet? Because I think their keeper's been linked with a move away, Shamal George. Yeah, and he always seems to have a very good game against us. I've heard him being linked with one of the Scottish Premier League teams, but I don't know if he's gone or not yet.
Oh, well, that'd be good if he goes. Yeah, he always has a good game against us.
If he's playing, we win 1-0. If he's not, we win 3-0. That's my prediction.
Well, Colchester lost 3-2 to Northampton this weekend to open the season. Is he gone?
He's gone, is he?
Yeah, he didn't play yesterday. He's already gone.
Oh, wow. Well, and they let in 3 goals against Northampton. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a goal fest, I'm going to predict, after that little bit of information leak there that I got. And I'm going to say 3-0. I'm going to say 3-0. That's what I'm going to go with. Lots of confidence. Crawley Town, I think, probably the better team between Crawley Town and Colchester. And 3-0 seems to be the way to go. Right, gentlemen, there's only 2 bits of business I need to take care of. The first of which is, I mean, you lads have seen these poor old chili plants trying to grow behind me for the last couple of months. There's no fruit on them. Like, there's a couple of chilies and stuff, but I've been told that I've done it wrong. And I should have apparently applied some kind of fertilizing food at some point of the development, and then it would have been, but apparently when these chilies grow to full size, they'll already be pretty rotten on the inside because it would have taken them too long to grow, something like that, as someone's told me. So we're going to try again next year. So I'm apologizing here for the lack of summer sizzler. I really am apologetic. I'm sure we'll find some way of people getting involved in the podcast if and when they want to spend a bit of money on us in the future. There'll be another idea. But the last thing, gentlemen,
keep the plants growing. The plants will be nice and strong next year.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm going to see what I can do. With them. Yeah, that's a good idea.
2 years out of a chili plant before it'll start to maybe die away, and you have to plant one of the chilies to get another one to grow.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it depends what kind of chili, but I've kind of often kind of got a couple of years out of chilies before they'll,
there's not like the chilies aren't huge, as you can see. Like some of them, and there's a couple of them that are red as well. So they're not all green, which is fun. But yeah, apologies for the lack of chilies. On this day, gentlemen, we'll finish on this day. Sales of the redesigned deck chair away shirt went through the roof as hot weather tempted United fans into buying the popular shirt. Over 1,000 of the green, white, and red striped tops sold in just under a fortnight, making it the most popular shirt in Carlisle United history. My question for you two to finish off the podcast is, yes or no, gentlemen, if they made a deck chair tomorrow, would you go out and buy it? Liam?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got the old one, so I would definitely get the new one.
You keep going, yeah. Will?
Yeah. Which year were you talking about? Because I know they've kind of like re-brought it out a couple of times. The most recent one,
2006.
Yeah, I've got that one. I quite like it.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I'd agree with it. I'd definitely buy any deck chair kit that ever came out by Carlisle United. I'd be over the moon to wear another one. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here for the season opener of the Blue Army podcast. It's time to say bye to the listeners. So this has been episode 78 of the Blue Army podcast. That's enough from me. That's enough from Liam.
Fine.
I was trying to be different this year. I was trying to end on something different this year. We'll leave that in, and that's enough from Wills.
Yeah, bye.
And that's enough from me. Bye for now. This has been episode 78 of the Blue Army podcast. Thanks very much for listening. Bye for now.